Hi, this is Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and this is the American Headhunter podcast on Blog Talk Radio, and now live as a Google Hangout. I've been experimenting with this show for several weeks now. I think I launched at the beginning of the year, and I think it's time for me to also go to video format. Now, this is a time where I like to spend about 15 minutes speaking with you as one recruiter to another to try and help you find work. Let me restate that. I'm getting confused between my different shows. To help you do a more effective job of being a recruiter. Because frankly, I believe recruiting is an incredibly difficult profession. And we all need to support one another in certain ways and compete in others. So I do this show as a way of sharing some of my own experiences, my own advice, and my own history, because having been in recruiting for more than 40 years, I've seen a lot, I've heard a lot, I've done a lot to search, filled almost 1,200 positions. I'm one job away of getting to the 1,200 mark, plus any number of consulting assignments on top of that. So I just thought I would now launch the Google Hangout of this, so it could be watched on YouTube. So today's show is brought to you by Audible. And if you go to audibletrial.com/the big game hunter and sign up for a free trial of Audible, you'll be able to get a free audiobook as part of that trial. So again, audibletrial.com/the big game hunter. My other sponsor is consultingassignments.com. And that's a site where you can find and fill consulting assignments, full-time consulting positions, temp to perm, and contract to hire opportunities anywhere in the world completely free. Posting a job or a resume is free. Searching jobs and resumes is also free, as is the ability to contact one another. The only thing the site's going to charge you for is if you want to feature a job or a resume. It is a whopping $10 for 30 days. And if you're going to feature more than one position, that price is going to come down ridiculously low. Like, I think they eventually get it down to $2 for 45 days if you order 100 jobs and you use them over the course of a year. So again, consultingassignments.com. So this is a show about interviewing. And my belief is there's certain basic points and basic questions you ask over and over again, but you can't ask them in a way that sounds repetitive. It can't sound like you're bored and you're doing this like painting by the numbers. You have to always make it seem as though what you're asking is fresh. Now, I'll try and differentiate between I got a resume emailed to me versus a recruiting call. But when all is said and done, there's certain things you need to always ask. Now, if you've received a resume, it starts off with, hey, I received your resume, or I found your resume on fill in the blank. Want to have a few minutes to talk with you. Is this a great time, or would it be better if we scheduled something for later on? Let's schedule something for later on. Book the time with them right then and there. What time works for you on your calendar? 2:30, great. What time zone are you in? Because remember, for me, I work in multiple time zones around the country. So I want to verify time zones, especially in certain states where I'm not absolutely sure. Do you need an Outlook calendar invite, or do you want to just save the time in some way on your own? I'd appreciate a calendar invite. Great. What number do you want me to call you on? Is this the right number I should reach on at that time? Because frankly, they're on the go. You may be calling them on a desk phone. They may want to have a call on the mobile or at their home number. Whatever it is, get that number so you know where you're calling. So you've gotten the job board response, and you start by saying, received your resume, background looks interesting, want to have a chance to talk with you. And yes, I'm running through this right now because I have a lot of material to cover. So you'd want to make it sound fresh and sincere. So let me now do it as I might in a real call. Received your resume in response to my ad, want to have a chance to talk with you. Maybe you could just start by asking, why are you interested in making a change? What's not working for you that prompts you to consider other things? Now, sometimes they start talking as soon as they hear the, why are you interested in making a change? And they don't hear that second thing. Well, I'm not out there aggressively looking for a job. Well, Experience tells me that for most people, they don't take the time to write a resume, put it up on a job board, and field calls from people like me if they're happy campers. They don't do any of those things. So, what prompted you to do all this stuff becomes the way I reframe that question. I've got a degree of sarcasm in my voice because they're insulting my intelligence when they say they're not actively looking for a job. Because the fact of the matter is, like I said, they did write a resume. They did put it on a job board. They submitted it to me. Or I found it there. It didn't get there by happenstance. They put it there. So why is it they're out there looking? What's not working that they want to improve upon? Great. And now I start to spend a little bit of time exploring that. Now, I'm not going to go into the detailed questions about their background and their experience that relates to the job in this podcast or video for the simple reason that each position is going to be a little bit different. But I want to confirm basic aspects of their background that fit the requirement I'm trying to staff for, hear their answer, and that'll include things like, don't you have my resume? So of course I have your resume, but I want you to hear how you tell your story, because at the end of the day, I'm here to evaluate and assess you and decide whether I'm going to refer you to a client. And part of that is predicated upon whether or not I think you're going to embarrass me or embarrass yourself if you're going to interview. So I want to hear how you tell your story like you would to a client. And then we continue on and they start talking to me and I explore some more. Because as you notice, I don't take their first deflection at face value. I smack it back at them. And I want to do that because I want them to understand right away that I'm the expert here and their crap isn't going to fly with me. So we've gotten to the point where I'm going to explore some other things from a general standpoint a bit further. So if I want to create an impression, I'll ask questions like, what are you looking for in a job? What's going to be important to you in the next job or organization? What will you need to see or hear to believe it's a good choice for you? Now, I want to understand their thought process because it's not like my clients are guaranteed to give them this, but they're giving me the information that's going to allow me to sell to them as I'm scheduling interviews. This is a firm that. I'm going to talk about the things that are important to them that my client provides. So I'm going to cover that as I speak to them. What was in your background? Because often their resume doesn't really reflect the job. My client's looking for this, and I'm not seeing all of that in your resume. What was it that caught your eye about this position? And what is your resume not telling me that it could, that would demonstrate your fit for this role? Now, again, I'm trying to get them to add more here. In order to understand what their process was like. Because often, as you know, you get spammed resumes. What qualities are you looking for in a manager, a director, whomever their report is? Again, I'm just trying to get a feel for them and how they're going to present themselves. And I also want to create the air that this matters to me, that their thoughts and feelings are important, even at the end of the day, where I'm not really sure about how my client is going to satisfy them. I want to understand. And that way, at the end of the day, this is information I can feed back to my client as being important to the candidate as they market their opportunity to them. Now, if I'm recruiting someone, the call goes differently. I'm doing a search for a client, your background looked interesting. Now, it could be because I've seen their resume in my database, I found it on LinkedIn, I did some web research and found some interesting things about them. Is this a convenient time to speak? Most often it isn't. I'm now doing scheduling the appointment like I did earlier. So why would you be open to change? Because they're agreeing to do this call. So I want to understand their thought process, but I'm going to be much more ginger with them. I'm going to really explore why they could be open to change. Well, you're calling me, you're trying to get me to go to this job. I said, yes, and I understand that. But at the end of the day, your thoughts and feelings about this are important, just as important as my client's thoughts and feelings are. So if you were to make a change, I want to understand what your motivations could be. What's not working at your firm that you'd want to improve upon? Good. Now I'm starting to assess for the job, and I'm going to go through the criteria my client has established. How long have you worked with such and such? Tell me about your role and responsibilities over the last few years. Because if I'm talking to someone with 6 to 8 years with one organization, they've held a multitude of roles during their but I really care about the last couple of years, don't you? So I really want to talk with them about the role that they've held most recently, especially if I'm seeing something that's a functional resume that's obscuring what their most recent work is. I really want to understand what they're doing, what they've done most recently. What are your successes? Now, in both cases, I'm trying to get a sense of whether I have an achiever on my hands or another drone. Now, often when candidates talk about what they've done, they talk in terms of the technology, the function, the stuff that they've done, but they're not really giving me metrics in terms of dollars saved or dollars earned. And that's a real standout for a lot of hiring managers. So I want you to dig and ask them, so in this work that you did, the part of the project you worked on, how much did your work really help your firm make money or save money? I'm not really sure. Let's look at the overall project then. How did it contribute to the bottom line of your firm? If they can't answer that, that's going to be a problem in a candidate. Doesn't mean you can't place them, but it makes it a lot harder because they're not thinking like marketing people. They're not thinking as though they're trying to sell themselves. They're going to make you do a lot more work here, and that's going to make it harder on you. But at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is find someone who can talk well about their work and obviously fits the client requirement, will come in within budget, that is, they're looking for a salary that could work within your client's budget, and presents themselves well. You want to assess for their oral communications and be able to hear them speak fully, not just simply 1 or 2 line answers or 1 or 2 word answers. You want to ask questions that are kind of open-ended. Where have you been on interviews so far? What have you liked or not liked about the firms that you've met with? This is a question that obviously gives you leads, but it also gives you a sense of their assessment criteria for evaluating your client. And don't you want to understand what they think, what they're thinking about? Based upon how they've evaluated someone else. So this is some of my thinking about questions that you could be asking. And there's a lot more. But these are baseline questions that you could ask whether you've received a resume or found a resume from a job board or done cold call recruiting. So that's my advice for this show. I want to encourage you, come over to my website, which is thebiggamehunter.us. Go exploring there. I've got content there that will help you do a more effective job with recruiting. It'll also do things along the lines of providing you with information about how you can reach me if you have questions. Schedule time with me. I'd be very happy to answer your questions. I do charge for that, but it's very inexpensive in the context of you getting coaching that's going to help you be successful, or you getting advice that'll help you save a deal that could go south on you. So again, my website is thebiggamehunter.us. So that's my show for this time. I hope you found it helpful. I'll be back next week with more for American Headhunter on Blog Talk Radio and as a Google Hangout. I'm Jeff Altman. Have a great day.